Hi everyone, it's Gary here from Echidna Sewing, and today I'd like to demonstrate the amazing capabilities of the Brother VE2300 embroidery only machine. Now this is one of my favorite machines. Actually I have a lot of favorite machines, but this is really one of my favorite machines. It's what we would call a middle of the road kind of machine that sits in around that $4,500 price point, and absolutely stunning. Now, a lot of you already own this machine, I know. Many of you would already have the VE2200, which was the predecessor to this model. So this is relatively new. It's essentially the VE2200, which was the Dream Maker machine. That was the Out of the Dream series from Brother, and this is the enhanced version of that. So it actually has the upgrade already built in. It's got the slightly larger embroidery area, but in essence, it is the same machine as the VE2200. Rock solid machine, the most reliable product, and one of our biggest sellers. So if you're looking for a machine with a bigger hoop, more capability, faster, quieter, smoother, easier to use, this is the guy. So we're going to go through the machine. I'm going to show you all the features on it, or as best I can in this video, and hopefully it'll be enough to let you make an informed decision about whether this is the right machine for you. So first of all, obviously we've unboxed it, we've put it on the bench here. You'll notice it's a very attractive looking machine, full color screen. Before I get into that though, I'll just go through what comes in the box with the machine. So there is a little cover for the machine, a dust cover. That is always worthwhile putting on when you're finished sewing for the day, keeps the dust away. It does come with two standard hoops included. So you've got your standard 5x7. Now that's the 130 by 180 millimeters, and that's kind of the industry standard large hoop. You'll notice these hoops on this machine have the slide-on mechanism, so the machine will recognize whatever hoop you have in place. And of course, it's almost impossible to run over hoop on this machine because it does recognize that particular hoop. So that's your 5x7 hoop standard in the box, and pop that over there. There's also this lovely big accommodating 300 by 200 or 12-inch by 8-inch hoop. And this is big, so pretty much could do anything you want with that. Only way you can go bigger than that is head up to the Stellaire or the Luminaire, but great size, and yeah, just going to let you do so many more projects on a hoop that size. Now, the other nice thing about the Brother hoops for this machine is they're extraordinarily nice quality. They're rigid, they're not very flexible in a sense, they don't pop out very easily. And I love this feature here. It's got the toggling screw down there for adjusting or tightening the hoop. It's much easier to get your fingers on than some of the standard hoops where the screw's quite close to the plastic. So really accommodating, and you'll find really high quality hoops. Now there's a lot more hoops available for this machine, loads of extra different sizes. You can see them all on our website, and lots of aftermarket generic hoops also available for the VE series. So so that's that. You also do get two hoop templates for helping position designs, but this machine has a very, very special feature that I'm going to show you as we dig further into it that makes templates kind of redundant, to be honest. So we'll pop that over there. Obviously spare bobbins. There's a bobbin work bobbin case included, little bobbin clips there, that's in the box. USB cable. You can direct connect this machine to a computer, so getting designs to the machine, you can just go direct. I just use a USB stick. I find it so much easier to do. And then there's a little bag of tricks here. So it's got your needles and a pair of scissors and some other, thread guides and twin needle spool things and so on. As you'd expect with any machine, that's also included. A very, very well constructed instruction book. Bit of bedtime reading there. Great to have by the machine, so everything you need to know is in there. Accessory guide, tell you all the different accessories available for Brother machines, and again, have a read through that. And a quick reference guide. Now this is great. This is the one you're going to use the most because it tells you how to get started really quickly, and it's got all the built-in designs. There's about 314 designs, I think, built in, and all those images are in there with all the color sequencing and everything you need to know to stitch those designs out. But of course, being a USB machine, loading designs that you already have, or getting designs from the internet, or buying new designs, really super easy. Just copy them to a USB stick and away you go. So that's what comes in the box. Very well kitted. So let's have a look at the machine. So as I said, it's a very attractive machine. It's big. It's got a big footprint. So you do need to have space for a machine like this. This is it with the embroidery unit attached. The top is on there. As you can see, that flips up as so. So that's where you load your threads. We're going to do that in a moment. We're going to show you how it threads and all. And a lovely big 7-inch color screen, so very easy to navigate around. You'll also notice, probably hard to see on a camera, but the lighting on this machine is superb, and you can control that lighting through the control panel, so you can have it darker or brighter, whatever you would like. Very big buttons. This is one thing I've noticed on a lot of machines on the market. They're a big machine, but they have these tiny little buttons. Brother don't do that. Nice, big, simple to get to buttons that make a lot of sense. Now on the side here, I've also got my little stylus. It has a little place to park there, so we're going to be using that. And there's also this little magical thing called the ultrasonic pen system. I love this. This is going to rock your socks. If you've never seen it before, you're going to love it. And it's all about design placement, and you will be amazed at how simple this is to use. So we'll come back to that, but it has a little cradle on the side of the machine that holds it for you, just there. Now you can use your finger on the touch panel if you wish, or I prefer to use the stylus because it's a bit more accurate. But if I tap this now, I've just turned the machine on and it's gone into its standby mode. Tap the machine and it will say the carriage is going to move. Just does a little jig there to set itself. And we're ready to go. You'll notice there's two menus here, there's embroidery and embroidery edit. I always go to embroidery edit. It gives me more features. Not quite sure why they have the two. I always use that. Once you click that, you go into being able to access the machine and all the features on the machine. And there's different menus. It's very, very simple to follow. So if we click on a menu, for instance, it will now show us all the designs in that menu. For instance, there's 12 pages in that menu. And just choose a design. It'll come up on screen. I now have an option to hit set. And if I do that, I can go in and I can size it to a certain extent, I can rotate it, I can change the colors, I can move it around, I can even just click it on screen and move it to wherever I want. And if I want to recenter it, I can just hit that button, it'll come back to center. I can duplicate it, I can mirror image it, etc., etc., etc. I can also add to it, so if I wanted to add text, I could, or add another design. So I can actually edit a lot on screen. So if I'm setting out a layout of certain designs and I want to sort of position them wherever I want them, I can do it on the machine without having to go to my computer, which is pretty handy. If I wanted to go to the embroidery mode, I just click embroidery and it will now tell me my first color is mint green, my next color is lime green, so I can go and collect all my colors that I need. And like any embroidery machine, it's going to stop when it completes a color, it's going to tell you to choose the next color and it's going to ask you to thread it. And you just go through that process. This screen also allows me to go in and rotate the design. It allows me to turn it to a one-color design. So for instance, if I was stitching something that I just wanted as a one-color design, I don't have to sit there and keep hitting the go button for every color stop. I just can hit that button there, it will convert it to one color. It also has an auto basting function. That's particularly useful when you're embroidering towels and so on and you don't want to put them in the hoop. It will automatically set a basting stitch around the design you have selected. So that's really, really handy. This little function is the ultrasonic pen button. Can't wait to show you that, but I'll leave you in suspense for a little bit longer. And this button is the LED pointer. So that turns on the LED light. So it actually has an LED pointer that shows you where the needle drop is going to be on the fabric. We'll show you that once we put something in the machine. You've also got tension controls here, and it has an auto tension system, which is fantastic, but you can control it, and that's good because sometimes different threads, different thicknesses of fabrics, all sorts of things dictate that you do need to have a bit more control, and you ultimately are in control, but the auto is really good. You can fast forward between designs, backwards and forwards. You can set needle drop points so you can see where your design is actually, what the perimeters of the design are. And you have an auto, like a tracing function to sort of trace where the design is going to stitch. I can also, if I create a design or a layout or a pattern in here, I can actually hit the memory and save it back into either the machine's built-in memory or back to my USB stick. So if you've created a layout that you want to reuse again, save it and it'll be there for when you next want to do it. I also have a lovely little button here where I can actually hit a 3D view in the hoop. So depending on what hoop I've got selected, if I selected a smaller hoop, for instance, it shows me the size of that design as it would be in reference to the hoop. So if I was about to use the 5x7 hoop, which is the 130 by 180 millimeters, I get a really good visual of what size that design is in reference to my hoop. Now that's really handy because sometimes it's hard to comprehend exactly how big a design is going to stitch. And if you really want to have a close look at it, you can hit that little plus button and it gives you a fairly high detailed view of the design right there on the machine screen. And that's one of the handy things about having a 7-inch full color LCD screen. So let's just close that out of there. I do want to show you how easy this machine is to thread. And what we're going to try and do is show you the bobbin threading first, because it's one of the things people often get sort of stuck with. And if the number of times we get calls from people who say, oh, my machine's stitching really bad, the bobbin thread's all coming up to the top. So often it's because they haven't threaded their bobbin correctly. So let me show you how this works. It's very simple. There's a little lever there. We pop the cover off. I'm going to take that bobbin out. There is a little mark on the front here. It's a bit hard to see when you're not sitting in front of it, but there's a little indicator there showing you how the bobbin actually comes off the spool. So all we do is we drop that into the machine. Try and keep my fingers out the way. Drop it into there. It comes around into a little tiny groove just there. Comes, oops, I know my hand's in the way, guys. I'm sorry about that, but I can't do it any other way. And it comes in and around this groove. This is called the Brother Quick Set bobbin system. And then it just cuts off there, and that's it. Our bobbin is threaded. We don't need to do any more. And that then just pops back on like that. So really, really super simple. Now I'm using a pre-wound bobbin. If you wanted to wind your own bobbin, there is a very easy to use automatic bobbin winder at the top of the machine here. There's a simple explanation on where that threads to come across here. Little blades on there for cutting off the thread, and all you do is engage that. And when you do, the machine now blocks out the embroidery function and will only allow you to choose start to wind a bobbin. So that's a handy feature. We'll just undo that. We don't need to wind a bobbin just yet. Now, let's thread the machine. And this is awesome. I'm going to use this lovely blue spool of Hemingworth. Now, you've got your normal threading spool just here, and obviously the little spool caps that go on and hold the spool on. And you would put your thread on and then put that cap on to hold it in position. You've also got a dual spool holder here, so that's good for winding bobbins, or occasionally there are ways you can use 2 threads to embroider with at the same time. I'm not using either of them. I'm going to cheat because I'm using a Hemingworth spool which has the plastic cap. And I can take that thread and just sit it right there or wherever. I'm going to sit it just there. And I'm going to run that into the machine. Now, because the Hemingworth spool has this plastic cap, it comes off and you can deliver it at any angle. It's not going to cause you any grief. It's a perfect delivery system. And I'm going to follow the numbers. So we go through to number 1, and then we come around to number 2. There's number 3, up to number 4. Now you've got to make sure you hook it into the take-up lever. This is a common thing people do, is there's a little lever up in here, and if you don't come across that way and pick up that lever, and you don't get the thread in there, your machine will jam up straight away. And it's very easy to see when you're sitting in front of it. But the guides are just simply telling you what to do. Number 5 is here. Number 6 is on the needle bar, so we just hook that up to there. Number 7 is just here. It's a little clamp. And as we take that up to number 7, I'll see if I keep my hands out the way. The thread comes up into number 7, and then we just cut that off. And all I can do to thread the needle is hit this button here. It's magic. Bang. Needle threader comes down. Needle threaded. How good is that? I have people who bought these machines simply on the strength of the needle threader. And, you know, as we get older, those needle eyes do get smaller. That's for sure. So that is a fantastic feature. So that machine is now threaded. And I'm going to now pop my hoop on. So I've just got a bit of white fabric with a bit of stabilizer on it in the biggest hoop. And this is the great thing. So when the presser foot is in the up position, loading the hoop is simple. You just slide it in and make sure that your little slide goes into the hoop slide there, and just push it back and push. There's a little lever, push that down, and now we've got our hoop mounted. Very, very simple mounting technique there. Now, I'm not going to stitch this design. I am going to do something a wee bit different. I'm going to talk about design placement. And I've been selling embroidery machines since they first came out, from right back in the 80s. Yes, we had embroidery machines in the 80s. Not many people realize that, but we did. And one of the biggest issues for folks in doing embroidery is getting design placement. It's probably the single biggest confusing and kind of get it wrong type of thing there is. And there's nothing worse than doing all this work on a project only to place a design incorrectly. you've either then got to unpick it, or some people just abandon the project, and that's no fun. So typically, when we go to design, set a design in place, what we would do, I'm going to take that hoop back out for a moment, and I hope my camera guy can keep up with me here. I'm just going to position that there for a minute. Here's an example. There's a little cupcake design that we have. And if I wanted to place that design somewhere, what we might do often is we'll set our fabric out on our table and we'll put a template down and we'll mark where we want the design. And typically you might do this. You might say, right, well, there's the center of my design. I should have popped a little hole in here first so I could mark that center. We'll just do that. So I might, if I wanted my design to stitch this there, I might mark my center, and I might mark my vertical and on my top and bottom, and also my horizontals. And I've got 4 little marks there, like a diamond. Now, I hope that can be seen on camera. I'm not sure. I'll make those dots a little bit bigger and a bit bolder. But you can see the cupcake is definitely not square. And that's where I want it to stitch. So let me pop that back there. That's where I position my cupcake, for no other reason on this particular fabric than to demonstrate how we go about aligning a design. Now, typically what we do, if I can find my little ruler that I had here, my little echidna magnifier, a lot of you would still be doing this. You'd be actually ruling up across on your fabric. So I'm going to go to the extreme here, and I'm going to rule up this cross. Now, this is a water-soluble pen, and the theory behind a water-soluble pen is that they're water-soluble, right? Who's ever had a water-soluble or a marking pen that's supposed to disappear that doesn't entirely disappear? And that does happen, unfortunately, so you should always test the fabric you're about to work with, because some chemicals in fabrics just hold on to the dye and they don't let go. But anyway, so that's where that cupcake is going to sit, and the orientation of that cupcake, I want it to point up like that. So we often do this sort of marking, and then what we would do on a more traditional machine is we'd actually unhoop the fabric and we'd square this up so as it's sitting perfectly squared somewhere in the center of the hoop. If you've embroidered before, you'll understand what I'm talking about. If you've never embroidered before, you're going to go, yeah, what's the big deal? Well, it is a big deal, because what I'm about to show you with the ultrasonic pen changed the way we hoop up our items. So that's what I would probably do. I'd unhoop it, take it out, square this up so as it's sitting nice and square in the hoop. Let's have a look at the magic of this pen. Now I'm going to load that cupcake design. I have a little USB on me, and I have it this time. Last time I did this, I didn't have it in my pocket. I had to go chasing for it. So this is a USB. Now here's another great feature on this machine. Because it's a more powerful machine than most of the sort of the lower price machines, it can read a bigger USB, and it can read a lot of designs. I have over 1,000 designs on this USB, and that's spread out over about, I think about 50 folders or something like that. So as long as you put your designs into a folder structure on the USB, you can have a lot of designs on there. But you can also just transfer a design to a USB and do one at a time if you wish. So let's load this design, this USB. And I'm going to hit the home button here, get right back to the start, and hit my embroidery edit. I'll use my stylus, which is always a better thing to do. Now, if I wanted to pull up a design that was still in the machine memory, I would hit this button here. If I wanted to obviously use one of the built-in designs, I'd use these buttons. But right now, I want to use a design that is on the USB stick. And likewise, if I was directly connected to my computer, I could hit this button and it would link to the computer. But I find a USB stick is just easier. Now, this is a cupcake design, and I have that all loaded on the USB, but I just wanted to mention this. So this here is a folder. It says ED1000, and it's an echidna design pack that has 1,000 designs in it. So if I click on that, you'll see that now shows me a whole raft of folders. So if I wanted to look at this folder and see what's in there, PES format. Yes, the Brother machines use the PES format, and that's probably the most prolific format of the lot. And every design pack you'll ever buy will be in a PES folder or format. So I can choose a design. It'll come up on screen. It tells me all the colors I need, and I can go through to the process of stitching it. That's not the design I want to stitch. So I'm going to return, and I'm going to hit my USB again. And this time I'm going to choose this same cupcake design I've got. which I think is going to be that design there now is on screen, but it's sitting perfectly square. It's not on that angle that I want it to be on. And I could take a guess and try and rotate it. So I could hit set and I could go to my rotate key and I could try and move it around and see if I can get it on the right angle, but I'll never get it perfect because I don't know. It's a bit of hit and miss. So what I can do now is go to embroidery mode, and you'll see I have this little pen symbol here. It's the ultrasonic pen. So if I click that button, whoops, we just better put the frame in first. And that's another great thing on these machines, guys. If you do something wrong, it'll tell you. So it won't swear at you or anything like that. It will just tell you that no, you've done it wrong, or you've got to do this first, and that's pretty cool. So we'll click that button. We'll hit that button again, the pen. That's the ultrasonic pen. Okay, so the machine says touch the LCD to select the area containing the 2 points to be later specified with the sensor pen. And all that really means is basically give the machine a bit of a heads up in this big hoop where your design roughly is going to be. And it's kind of in the center of the hoop. So I'm just going to leave the center is selected there. So I'm just going to click OK. But if I had a design right down in the bottom right, I'd hit the bottom right quadrant or top right or whatever. So very simple. It says OK to revert to the original position. Basically, it means the design is going to be as it originally came into the machine. So if you'd been messing around and rotating it, it's going to reset it to center again. Click OK. The carriage will move. So there's all sorts of little warnings that'll always look after your safety. Now, this is important because it says select an on-screen key to indicate the center or side position where you want the embroidery area. Now, 99% of the times you're going to use the center of the design as your reference point. That's kind of what we do because we normally place our template down, we mark a center, and we mark our directions and everything, or angles that we want it to stitch on. Now again, you know, on this one we've actually marked this big cross, and the beauty of this sensor pen is I don't need all this markings. I just need 2 points. I need a center point and I need to know what angle I want it to stitch on. So all I'm going to be looking at is that center there where the 2 lines cross, and that point there, which is kind of my marking for the direction. I don't need all these lines. That's fantastic because these pens don't always come out that easy, regardless of, or depending on the fabric and the conditions that you're using them under. So imagine we don't have all these lines, we just have 2 points, 1, 2. So I'm going to click OK. Now it says use the sensor pen to set the position. You'll see there's a number 1 and a number 2, and you're going to start with number 1. That is, in my case, the center of the design. So if I now just simply tap the center point, then that's turned red, and now it's asking me to tap number 2, position 2, which remember I said would be that point right there where the arrow dissects the vertical line. Number 2 turns red. And if I want to see that I'm really accurate, I have the ability to turn on my LED pointer. Click that button, and yeah, I'm pretty close, but not quite close enough. Now, why is it different to where I tapped? It's because depending on where I'm sitting, or whether I'm right-handed or left-handed, or whether this machine's been set to me, calibrated to me, and the angle that I'm holding the pen, I could have tapped off the mark or for any reason. So all I need to do now is just jog it across using the arrow keys so as my LED pointer is right on the dot. And it was pretty close, but now it's absolutely pinpoint accurate. Click OK, and number 2 is really, really close. So, maybe I held the pen a little bit differently. We all hold pens differently. And so that's now perfect. And if I click OK, this is the magic. Have a look. The cupcake design is now positioned exactly where I wanted it to. And if you look at the screen, you'll see that it's now on an angle in the position over the top of the markings that I had on the fabric. So what this means is I didn't have to worry about how I hooped the fabric. I didn't have to hoop square. I didn't have to worry about cross my fingers, cross my toes. When I start embroidering, is the design going to be in the right place? Because this ultrasonic pen system means it will be. So it's really, really, really simple, guys. Now I can do that to designs that I've imported off my USB. I can do it to designs that are loaded on the machine. I can do it to text. I can do it to whatever I want. Particularly useful if you've got putting a line of text across the top of a pocket. Anyway, I'm going to stitch this design out. and you're going to be able to hear the machine running. I'm going to leave it on that angle, it doesn't really matter. So we'll just get it going, and then we'll fast forward through that, and you'll be able to hear how good this machine is. And I'm going to stop it midway through and show you another couple of nice cool features. So to start sewing, we just simply put the foot down and hit the go button. Now it always does a few lock-off stitches to start, and it runs up to 1,000 stitches per minute, which is really, really fast. Now you can hear that's running nice and quiet. Now it has a trimming function, so it will trim the thread when it finishes a particular area, but it also has a really cool feature called a wiper, and that's this little bar just here. Now when it finishes a certain area, now of course there's not a lot of color changes in this particular design, it's a single color design, but I might even stop that in a moment. In fact, we will do that. There, it's stopped now. So let's get this. I hope we've got a close-up of this. Watch this little wiper bar. It will come up, it will lift the thread to above the presser foot. And that means when you start the next section of stitching, it won't have any tail or thread. Notice there's no tail on top there, so there's nothing to trim when you complete the item. It's such a cool feature. Now the machine runs up to 1,050 stitches per minute, and you can control that speed down to 600 or down to 350 stitches per minute. And of course, like all embroidery machines, they do tend to, they will slow down for certain stitch types. So big long satin stitches, it will slow down to control the stitch and make sure you get the perfect stitch. Okay guys, so that has now stitched out. Now, I'm going to show you something. Let me take this hoop back off a moment. Now, as I said, we marked all these lines here, which we wouldn't need to do. We would literally only had needed that center and one dot on that angle to get that correct. But remember I said that wiper thingy that pulled the thread up to the top after each trim? There was a trim between each of these, and there's no little trims for you to worry about, because it actually trimmed the thread, wiper pulled the thread up, and then that got sewn in underneath. You have a look underneath, you'll see all the little tails underneath, which is exactly normal. That's what we want to see. We don't want to see those on top. So you've got no cleaning up to do. Okay guys, so look, that was just a quick stitch out, a bit of an explanation about the ultrasonic pen system, which is just a standout feature on the Brother VE2300 Essence machine. There are so many standout features on this machine that makes it a real winner in that sort of middle of the road sort of price point. And it's important to remind everyone, you've probably all heard of the Dream machines from Brother. This is one of the Dream machines. It is the Dream Maker, albeit the new Essence model, so it's the most recent. The things just recapping the things I love and cherish about this machine: it's big, it's got a lovely big hoop, 300 by 200. It's fast, it's quiet, it's one of those machines you could use in your house late at night and not worry about waking anyone up, because they are just so quiet. As I said, it's a beautiful looking machine, lovely big screen, and it also has a lot of easy to control user settings. So you've got a lovely control panel in here. If we click on that, you can set all your needle positions, your mouse pointer. You can even use a mouse on this, which is really cool. You can turn your thread sensors off. You can increase your speaker volume. Scrolling through there, it's got an eco mode. If you like to, you're mindful of saving power, you can turn it into economy mode. You can actually set up the opening screen to be different screens. You can set the lights, so you've got really bright lights. I've had them toned down so the camera doesn't get too affected by it. But in your sewing room, you can have it however you like. You can have the screen display at a different levels. There's a sensor function calibration, so that's for your sensor pen. So if you are a left-handed, for instance, you would want to just run that sensor and it'll just calibrate the pen to the way you hold the actual pen, so that's really handy. You've also got your upgrade screen service count. So this is good, guys. You can see exactly how many stitches the machine has done, how many stitches since the last service. So when we do a service on these guys, we do reset that for you, and what version you're running. Brother are always offering free updates, so things, you know, they make improvements, and those updates are downloaded free and installed very, very easily. And moving through there, you can tell it to use this particular frame size, so you can scroll through all the different frames. You can use, there's a few different thread palettes in there, and you can choose the number that the thread is in that various palettes. So for instance, the Brother ranges are in there: Madeira Poly, Madeira Rayon, Sulky, Robertson Anton, Embroidery. But I generally leave it on the embroidery, and I change it to name of color, because I find it's easier to, if you look at a color that says brown or whatever, cornflower blue, for instance, is an example. I know what kind of color that is, so I like to use the number of a color or the name of a color. Your speed settings, so you go right up to 1050. Now here's a good thing on Brother machines, all Brother machines. If you see a setting and it has a black box behind it, that means that's the standard factory setting. So if you're ever lost, you're not sure about something, just look for the black box. So that 600 hasn't got a black box behind it, but 1050 does. That means that's what it would have been out of the factory. Same as your embroidery tension. So 00 is the standard setting. If you're not sure, just take it back to that standard setting. It's the best place to start. This also has embroidery foot height adjustments, so that gives you ultimate control on your embroidery. And you can change the layout of your screen, the colors of the backgrounds, all that sort of thing, and the size of the images, thumbnail size. So a lot of people like the larger size. I prefer the larger size. And then adjustment for your embroidery foot height and your basting stitch. So you can actually set the distance for your automatic basting stitch as opposed to a position around the design that you're applying the basting stitch. It defaults at 5mm. And if you are old school, you like to have an inch measurement, you can go back to inches or millimeters. I tend to leave it in millimeters these days. So lots of control there, very simple to get into. You've also got a great help menu. So if you click on the little question mark down here, you've got all your basic operations and embroidery basic operations. So if you choose whatever that is, it scrolls through pages and pages of good information there for you. But remember, we're always here to help you. So if you've got one of these machines, or any machine for that matter, and you need help, just contact us. We will talk you through anything. The machine uses standard embroidery needles, so you don't have to go looking for anything special. They're just your standard domestic embroidery machine needles. Very standard A-style bobbins. Very easy to maintain the machine too. So taking your needle plate and your bobbin case out to clean the machines, very, very simple, very easy to replace. We've got videos on our website explaining how to do that. And all in all, I've sold hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these machines over the years. Absolutely fabulous, and you can't go wrong. 5-year computer warranty, 3-year mechanical warranty or service warranty. It's a Brother, so you know it's going to work. And read the reviews, watch the videos. You'll see that this is just a pearler of a machine. So hope that has given you a little bit of an insight into one of my favorite machines. And check out the deals on our website. There's always something really solid going on this model. It is a popular machine, and we'd love to help you out. And of course, we do also offer trade-ins too. So you can trade in your old machine on this or any of the machines we sell, actually. And we also have finance terms and all sorts of options for making the purchase. So hope that has been informative. Happy sewing and embroidery, and yeah, hope we can help you soon. Cheers.